COVID-19 pandemic continues to cause devastation. Millions of people are said to have lost their jobs in various industries, and the restaurant industry has not been spared, as many eateries struggle to survive, and some have already failed to survive and have had to close their doors for good. Now, chefs and restaurants have launched a campaign to save jobs. Chef Liam Tomlin is one of the chefs leading this campaign. He joins us via Skype this morning in Cape Town. Chef, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Hashtag Jobs Saves Lives is a hashtag we've seen spring up over the last few days. Some really powerful images from some really well-known chefs and some not so well-known restaurants standing there with placards and just very starkly numbering the jobs that are on the line, that have been lost already and now are at risk of being lost. What made you decide to take this step and put those figures out there?
Well, after the speech last Sunday night, I just wrote an email to all of our chefs, so the head chefs and my business partners in our 5 restaurants here in Cape Town, and I asked them to take a photograph outside of their restaurant with the amount of staff that we have currently employed and to put it on Facebook. I didn't realize how big it was going to go. I mean, this has gone viral. We've had support right across the whole country, and it's quite scary to see the figures of these jobs that are seriously at risk now. Every single one of these jobs is at risk now.
Talk to us first about your situation. You're very well known in South Africa. You are Dublin born, but I always think South African chef Liam Tomlin. You've got a number of restaurants that fall under your belt. And you employ a number of people, and you also give business to a number of service providers. That's something that a lot of people forget. It's not just what happens in the kitchen, it's also what comes in and out of those exit doors for ingredients to put those beautiful plates of food on the table. Talk to me about what has happened to your business over the last few months.
Over the last few months, so roughly the last 4 to 5 months since we've had lockdown, we've reopened 2 of our restaurants just to do a takeout service. So we've probably generated 300,000 rand in income, but we've spent, between our 5 restaurants, we've spent 12 million rand in the last 4 to 5 months, trying to keep the businesses alive. Obviously, we still have to pay an element of rent. We're still paying, you know, we paid VAT on the very good months that we've had. We're still paying UIF, PAYE. We're still paying electricity rates. All of the expenses, all of the overheads are still there. We're still trying to support our staff. Thankfully, to date, we haven't let any staff go. In season, we employ up to 300 people. At the moment, we're in the early 200s, but this season, I'm sure we won't be employing 300 people. So already, it's having a massive effect on my business.
Now, the second last time we heard from the President, there was a bit of a sigh of relief when we heard that restaurants could open for a sit-down service.
Yeah.
And then the last speech we heard would have caused a lot of that emotion to go in the other direction again, because then there was the curfew of 9 p.m. that was reinstated. And of course, that has an impact on your staff. They need to be back in their homes at 9 o'clock, which means something as important as your dinner service now get cut down to probably something like 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And that is before you even look at the impact of not being able to serve alcohol, which would be a big part of what you offer as an experience. I have seen online how restaurants have positioned themselves to serve food safely. I think you retweeted a video from Fane Restaurant where they've put up Japanese blinds in between tables. They've got a QR scan so you don't have to physically handle a menu that somebody else has had. Do you believe that the restaurant industry has done their bit to prove to government that they can do business safely? And why have they not heard or seen that?
I really do believe it. I mean, in our restaurants, we have done major changes, and this is all at huge expense. Those screens cost money. All this sanitizing equipment now costs money. In one of our restaurants, for example, at Constantia, we've actually made the kitchen larger. We've actually physically gone in and spent money making our kitchen larger so our chefs have more space to work in, so they're not working on top of each other. We've had to reduce the numbers of chefs who can be in the kitchen to abide by the 1.5 meter separation. But this is costing us all a huge amount of money that we've never, ever had to pay out before. It's yet another overhead that we're going to have to carry going forward. And, you know, I'm talking about my restaurant, and any professionally run restaurant are spotlessly clean long time before COVID. We get audited by hygiene companies. We get audited every year. I get certificates. I have to have the extraction fans in my kitchens cleaned, otherwise I can't get insurance. That has to happen every 2 months. I have certificates for that. They're very hygienic spaces. So I honestly believe that that restaurants are probably one of the safest places you can actually go to currently.
Now, your campaign, #JobSavesLives, I'm looking at some of these pictures, 92 jobs, 62 jobs, 80 jobs, 47 jobs, and behind those jobs are families who are going without food on the table the longer these people stay out of their jobs. You're hoping that this gains the attention of government. What more are you planning? And have you heard any feedback from the hospitality tourism representatives in government or from anybody in administration?
Personally, I've heard nothing. I speak a lot. I speak on a regular basis with Wendy Alberts from the Restaurant Association. She's doing amazing work. But next Wednesday, we're doing a protest where we're bringing all of our empty seats and tables and placing them out in front of our restaurant on the streets. And it's not, as you said earlier on, it's not just the restaurants that are suffering. It's our supply chain. Between our 5 restaurants alone, we've got several hundred suppliers. Now, I'm talking individual wineries. We're talking about bakers. We're talking about butchers, fishmongers. We buy all our fish from a community-based fish company called Abelobi. They are struggling because now this whole community of fishermen is affected because they cannot sell the fish into the restaurants. We've got farmers. We've got the one chap who supplies us with fruit and vegetables. He's got 51 staff. I have another supplier. He's got 90 trucks that are all parked up in a parking lot. He hasn't used them for 4 months. The damage that it is doing, that is filtering down, the knock-on effect from the restaurants it's incredible. It's actually quite scary. It goes to, you know, I had a meeting yesterday with a designer. He's a label designer for the wine industry. He hasn't had a job in 5 months. So it's very broad.
Very broad indeed, and I dare say we haven't seen the end of this very, very vicious cycle. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and thank you for you and your industry making your voices heard. Chef Liam Tomlin is speaking to us there from Cape Town. The campaign that they've started online is called #JobSavesLives. Very stark pictures and stark reality of the impact that the pandemic has had and the lockdown regulations as well.